Happy Friday. Welcome to You've Got Questions, I've Got Answers. Today's question is, what are the biggest home expenses I can expect? Stay tuned and I'll share.
You better get fired up.
If you think you see me wearing a jacket, you're right, man. It was chilly this morning. I walked out, it said it was 37 degrees. I'm going to see what it says it's at right now. I bet it's in the upper 40s. But it's 55 now. Okay, I guess I haven't been outside for about an hour. So it's warming up. I might be able to take this thing off, but I don't even have the air hasn't kicked in all day. It's 68 degrees in here. We usually have it at 74. So for us Florida folks, man, it's chilly. It's chilly. So let's get into these expenses that can really hit the pocketbook. And let's talk about the why first. Why am I talking about this? I'm talking about these major expenses because I think a lot of people rent and they say, I am so afraid of buying a home because, oh my gosh, if I rent and something happens, landlord's got to take care of it. But if I buy and something happens, I have to take care of it. And that's 100% correct. I would say this. When you are a landlord and you're renting out a property, you're looking at your taxes, insurance, your principal, your interest, maybe an HOA fee if there is one. And then you're also looking at the typical maintenance you're going to have on average, right? Maybe if you've got an older roof or an older AC or some big project or something, you're going to front load some of those costs. But when you're looking at all that, you're going to add in a little bit to all of that, right? Principal, interest, taxes, insurance, HOA, maintenance. Plus, you got to have a little profit. You're a landlord. If you don't have profit, what are you doing this for? And then that's what they charge in rent. So a lot of times people say, man, I can't believe how much rents have gone up over the last couple of years. But a big part of that is everything's gone up, right? Landscaping's gone up. Windows have gone up. Getting a roof done's gone up. All these prices have gone up. When they go up, rent goes up as well. So it may not feel like you're paying the hard and fast right now emergency number, but you're paying for it. You're just paying for it in increased monthly numbers over what you would otherwise be paying for if you owned it. Okay. So let's get a little bit more into the scariest of the scary. I wrote down 5. And really, with 3 of these, there's asterisks to them. Okay. So the first one's going to be the biggest one. And I'm sure if you had to guess, you would guess this correctly. It's the roof. And for most people, the roof is going to be the most expensive thing that they have to deal with. Now, typically, you've got there's exceptions to what I'm saying, but in Port St. Lucie, you've got 3 different roofing options. You've got shingles, which there's different styles and different levels and of quality with shingles. And then you've got metal, which even with metal, you've got standing seam, and then you've got, I don't even know what the other one's called. And then you've got different gauges, right? Thickness of metal. And depending upon how thick it is, that'll kind of tell you how long it's going to last. And then you've got tile, and there's different types of tile, right? There's S-shaped tile, there's flat tile. And even with tile, different types of tile can last a certain amount of time as well. They've even come out with now metal roofs that look like tile roofs, which is kind of cool. So there's different expenses attached to each roof. And a lot of times, and I made this mistake when I first got into real estate here in Florida. A lot of times you'll think, okay, if my house has, let's say, a metal roof and it's a 2,000 square foot home and that roof costs $25,000, then every 1,800 square foot home is going to be roughly $1,800, or what I say, $25,000. That's not true, because, and I'm going to do this in the simplest of terms. Imagine a house where the roof is just like this, right? You got one side and you got another side. You're not going to see that a lot on a 2,000 square foot home, but you will see it a lot on a 1,200 square foot home, a 1,300 square foot home. It's just literally 2 sides. That's going to be a much cheaper roof per square foot, home square footage, right? Which is not how they're looking at it, than if you've got a ton of eaves and valleys and everything else. So the more, I'm using eaves and valleys, but I'll say, if I were to dumb it down, the more bends, right, in a roof, the more joints in a roof, the more it's going to run you. And they're looking at square footage as well of the roof, not of your house. So you could have, and I'm making this up because I don't know roofing numbers, but you'll get the point. On a 2,000 square foot house, you might have a roof that's 2,400 square feet of roof. And on another 2,000 square foot home, you might have one that's 2,800 square feet of roof. Those are going to be two different prices, right? You've got what, 20, 30% more roof. It's reasonable to think that the price is going to be 20, 30% more. But typically for a roof, on a shingled roof, I'm not seeing a lot of shingle prices under maybe 14, 15 grand right now. I hear about it every once in a while, but it's rare. Most of them are in the upper teens to lower to mid 20s. That's what I'm seeing for most roofs. Now, when I say most, it's going to be obviously lower for a 900 square foot home than it is for a 5,000 square foot home. I'm talking about your typical 1,800 to 2,000 square foot home in Port St. Lucie. That's what you're looking at. For metal, same thing. You're generally looking at the high teens up to maybe 30, right? And again, that depends on a lot of different things, including the gauge. Do you want standing seam? All these different things. But you're usually looking anywhere between 18 and 30 is what I've seen. Tile, I don't see a lot of tile roofs. Um, People with tile roofs do not want to redo their roofs. They're even more expensive than the numbers that I'm sharing with you now. I don't know if I've seen, and I'm sure somebody in the comments will correct me because I'm sure this isn't correct, but I don't see a lot of tile roofs outside of HOAs. I only see them in HOAs. And I'm not going to say because, but I'll say predominantly because tile is so expensive and metal is a little bit more affordable and more durable. We have seen tile looking metal be approved in HOAs for roofs in the last, say, 2 to 3 years. It's something I've seen more commonly. So if you've got a tile roof, you need a new roof, and you're looking for a more affordable way to do it, they don't allow shingles in your HOA. Ask the ACC or the ARC if you can do a tile, or I'm sorry, a metal roof that looks like tile. So the roof is the first one, right? And it's a big cost. I highly recommend just assuming no matter what you've got, just assume you're going to get 20 years out of it because insurance might kick you off before your roof is bad, right? There's a lot of people with 20-year-old shingle roofs that are losing insurance and the roof is just fine. It's probably got another 5, 10 years on it. Insurance doesn't care. So you're either going to be uninsured, which if you got a mortgage, good luck, or you're going to be paying 9, 10, 11 grand in insurance, or you just don't have an option. They take you off. There's no other option. You have to do it. So when you get that roof put on, what I do for my family, and I recommend you doing if you're a homeowner, and if you're a renter, it's being calculated into your rent, is look at, okay, what's a roof today? Let's say it's 20 grand. And if I'm going to look out 20 years from now, what is that roof probably going to be with 3% inflation? It's probably going to be about 40, 45 grand. Let's say 40 grand. Okay, divided by 20 years, that's 2 grand a year. That means every year I'm going to put 2 grand into a roof budget, right? Boop, 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 boop. Now 20 years comes along, I've got 40 grand. That 20-year roof now costs 40 grand. I've got cash for it. I can pay for it. As a homeowner, I highly recommend you setting aside some sort of slush fund to cover some of these maintenance costs that are going to pop up. You might have roof leaks. A roof leak I've seen go anywhere from $1,000 to 2,500. They're not overly expensive. They're expensive, but they're not overly expensive. Not like a roof. But you want to start saving up for things like that. So the next one is an AC. Now, an AC typically now, I think the lowest priced AC I've seen in a while is maybe 7 grand. I haven't seen one over 10 in a while, but I see them really close. So I'll just say an AC is going to be 7 to 10 grand. Now, most of them are going to last 10 years. And I think most warranties are 10 years, if I remember correctly. Where I see them typically going out is like that 13 to 18 year mark. So let's just say 15 years on average. So again, if you're looking at, let's say $8,000 for an AC today, and you're looking 15 years down the road, it might not quite double to 16, but let's say it'll be 14, right? So 14 divided by 15 years, that's about $1,000. So I would start saving $1,000 a year towards your AC. So you get $1,000 a year going towards your AC, you get $2,000 going towards your roof. Those are kind of musts. I don't know anybody who lives with no roof, and I don't know anybody who lives in Florida with no AC. So those are musts. Those aren't really something that are negotiable. Jamie writes, this is why people rent. Yeah, I get it. However, you're still paying for it if you rent, right? It's still baked into the numbers. But yeah, I get it. So the rest of these aren't necessarily musts, right? It's specific to a couple different things. So one is a pool resurfacing. Well, you got to have a pool. If you don't have a pool, then you don't have to worry about this expense. But typically for a pool resurfacing, and again, it depends on a million different things, but typically for a concrete pool, I've seen $9,000 to $12,000. Have I seen it lower? Yes. Have I seen it higher? Yes. But typically you're looking at 9 to 12. What I've been told is that will last you 15 to 20 years. I don't know as much about that as I do with roofs. Typically, that's something that if somebody's going to do it, they do it after closing. It's not something that I'm working with somebody on before closing. So I don't have as much experience with that. But 9 to 12,000, again, you can divide that out by 15 to 20 years, and there's something you can start saving annually for your maintenance budget. Windows. The reason I have an asterisk here is I've got older windows. I think my house is an '04 or an '05, and my windows are not impact glass, which I would love. But when I look at how much it's going to cost me to get, like, I'm not going to buy new windows. If I'm going to buy new windows, I'm going to buy hurricane windows. Well, to buy hurricane windows for my house, which I feel is a pretty modest house, it's a little over 1,800 square feet. And with the amount of windows that we have, I've been quoted anywhere between $30,000 and $50,000. Well, how much more is my house going to be worth if I put those windows in? Maybe $8,000 to $10,000. So I'm absolutely going to lose 2/3 to 80% of my money, right? Okay, but yeah, Joe, your cooling bills are going to come down. Yeah, sure. But if I'm blowing 40 grand and I'm only getting 10 grand in value added, are my bills going to come down $30,000? I mean, it's going to take me a decade or two of no bills to get there. So for me, windows are not a must unless you've got cracked windows, leaking windows, something like that. And strictly from a financial standpoint, not from a emotional standpoint, or this is my home, so I'm going to get what I want. None of those, just financial only. I typically won't recommend that people get new windows, certainly not hurricane windows. It just doesn't make sense financially in most situations. There are a handful of situations where it does, but in most, I'm going to say it doesn't. So it's not a have to, it's a want to. And most people, if you're looking at financials only, if you're watching this video, you're worried about your financials, you're probably not going to do it. And then the last one, the fifth one, is a septic. So septics scare people who've never had a septic. If you're from the country, a septic isn't quite as scary, right? But essentially, it is a sewer system maintained personally, privately. And you can have issues with that septic system. And you're going to have to clean that septic system out every, 2 to 4 years, depending upon 53 different variables. And that's going to cost you money. When you go to sell, you're going to have to get an inspection to show that it's in good condition. That's going to cost you money. And I have seen them before where they're imploding, which a lot of times means you need a new one. Or they've got different issues that we got to get repaired, and those repairs can cost money. And I don't know what a septic costs. I have not had to put in. I think I've had one client put a septic in here, and it was probably 5 or 6 years ago. And I'm guessing it was $8,000 to $10,000, but I can't remember. And it was 5 to 6 years ago, so that could be 15, 18 now. I have no idea. So all I know is expensive, and I know that I've had a couple clients recently have situations where they're on septic. They're looking at a home that's on septic, and if they want to connect to public sewer, it's going to be $8,200. Now, I don't know if it's $8,200 throughout the city. I don't know if that's a number this year and it goes up every year. I would assume it is. I've also heard you can get a 0% loan on that, and then you make small payments over however many years. But it's an expense you're having to take on because you bought a property with a septic. If the septic goes bad and they force you to hook up to city services, 8,200 ish, right? Again, that might be different in different areas. So that is a pretty hefty expense also. Now, if you buy a home in Port St. Lucie or anywhere that's on public sewer, well, then all the expense is on the sewer company. Now, that's kind of like saying if you're a renter, well, who cares? The landlord will take care of it. Yeah, true, except they're baking it into your rent, right? Well, it's kind of true with the sewer as well. I mean, you're going to get taxed a little bit more if they've got to repair a bunch of sewers. So that's something to think of as well. Here's Jamie back again. My house is on septic. I've had zero issues. However, I take care of it. That's a great point. Most people who have septics, I mean, I've sold a lot of homes to people with septics, and I get calls from people who have issues with their properties. I rarely get calls with septic issues. Rarely. As long as you maintain it, it's pretty good. They last a long doggone time. Let's look it up here. I'm going to look up how long does a typical septic system last? And the answer is 15 to 40 years. While this is the standard range, some well-maintained systems can exceed 50 years. Okay, so that's interesting. But yeah, that's probably why I don't get a lot of phone calls about septic systems. So there you guys go. Really, what I would say is this: if you guys are renting and you're considering buying and it's the expenses that are scaring you, find a realtor with experience who's actually owned a home or owns a home and have them draw some of these things out. For example, I said the roof is the biggest one. But if you're buying a home that's got a 2024 roof, well, that's only 2 years old, barely 2 years old. So you're not going to need a roof for 18 more years. So that's not an expense. And if you're going to sell in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, then who cares, right? If your AC was 2025, well, it's going to be at least 9 years before you're going to need an AC. And that's assuming the worst. If you're only going to live there for 6, 8 years, who cares, right? So have someone go through and say, hey, these are things you're going to need to worry about. These things you're not going to need to worry about for X amount of years. Here's how you can plan accordingly and make a budget, blah, blah, blah. And now you compare apples to apples, renting to owning, and you can see what's a better idea for you financially. Guys, I hope this was helpful. If you got any questions or comments, feel free to leave them down below. Thank you for joining me, and we'll see you next time. Take care.